So parents and guardians of kids who are deaf are being encouraged to enroll them in one of the Jamaica Association for the Deaf 7 schools, right? Executive Director, Kimberley Sherlock Marriott Blake is with me. Executive Director, Jamaica Association for the Deaf.
Yes.
Good morning, welcome to Smile Jamaica.
Hi.
7 schools.
Yes.
I think about 3 or 4 in Kingston.
Yes, so there are 12 schools across the island, and 11 now, because one of the schools the school in St. Elizabeth recently closed its doors because of school numbers. Outside of our 7, there are other groups of schools, and we encourage persons to register with those schools as well. As an organization, we just want the kids in school.
Yeah, when you say outside of your 7, so not all school for deaf would be a part of the association. Why not, though?
So the JAD manages 7 units and schools across the island. We have a school in Brownstown, that's our primary facility, boarding facility. We have schools in Kingston, so we have the Danny Williams Primary School in Kingston and the Lister Gilby High School in Kingston. And we also have a preschool. So as early as you'd send your kids to school, any child, you can send a child who is deaf or has hearing loss to school. But outside of our schools, there is the Caribbean Christian Centers for the Deaf. That's a group of It's a missionary group that started a group of schools in Jamaica. So they have a facility in Montego Bay, they have one in Mandeville, and they have one in Kingston.
Yeah, you just said deaf or hearing loss.
Yes.
Hearing loss would mean not totally...
Not profoundly deaf, have some level of hearing loss, and it depends on the kind of hearing loss. So for us, it's outside of even registering the child in a school for the deaf, it's ensuring that the child is in a place where they can actually learn.
Right.
Unfortunately, most of the schools that we have, we're looking at a 44 students teacher ratio. So a child who has hearing loss who can't function with all the noises can't function in a classroom like that. So it might mean finding a school that's maybe not a school for the deaf, but coming to JAD and getting the support for school placement in a smaller classroom.
Why would a parent, guardian, send a child who has hearing problems to a regular school?
Not accepting that they're deaf.
Hang on. What do you mean not accepting that you're deaf?
I mean, we still have some cultural beliefs when it comes on to hearing loss. There is the belief that if the child is born deaf, it might be some generational curse. You have a person in your family that did something, and so this is now the lot you have been given for the thing you did years back.
But when you said not accepting, are there not tests that are done that would tell you that whether you can hear or not?
Oh yeah, and there are some parents who they don't even do the test. They will acknowledge the child is not responding, the child doesn't speak, the child does not engage in the way that a regular 4 or 5-year-old would engage, and the parents just say, "Him come, give him some time."
Wow.
You know, or they have done a test. The doctor has noted that they need to do some more assessments because the JD does run a hearing center, a hearing health center, and so we'll have persons come in and you let them know that, okay, so that we're based on where the child is now, we recommend that you engage a little more. Let us see where things go. This could get worse. And the parents say, all right, cool. So, yeah, man, I'll let you know. And you never see them.
You told me before we came on, which I think is brilliant news, that not as many kids
persons are being born deaf.
Are being born deaf.
Right.
Well, that's great news, isn't it?
It is. There is a positive side of it, and the fact that it means our healthcare system is improving. There's also the fact that in the past, maybe about 30 or so years ago, the main cause of deafness would have been rubella.
Yeah.
So the fact that our healthcare system is improving is an indication that you may have less children born deaf, but it doesn't change the fact that there are other factors. So medication that a mother takes when pregnant, which is something that women still do, even though they're being encouraged by their doctors to avoid certain medication, it's an impact to the child. Hearing is one of the first senses that a child develops in the womb. And so there are other environmental factors that could impact it, whether it be the food that you're eating or not eating.
So there's usually a specific reason a child would be born deaf?
Maybe not. It could just be genetics, a recessive gene that wasn't acknowledged before.
Yeah.
And then in the very early years, children could have an ear infection that goes unnoticed, which is a common cause.
Yep.
Or, of course, being very inquisitive children, they push something in the ear and damage the eardrum.
Wow. I was preparing for this, and it says people are encouraged to contact us to arrange school placement and other support for the student and family. What's the other support?
So we have hearing assessments, and following the hearing assessment, our family services often our social services team kind of journeys with the parent. It could be that the hearing loss can be supported with a hearing aid. and then the child can be placed in a mainstream classroom, and you give them some ongoing assessment to ensure that the hearing aid is actually benefiting them. So we provide hearing aids. We can provide other support to parents, whether it is counseling, whether it's sign language training. It could just be helping the parent to find a church in the community or nearby that can accommodate their child, because for many families that's something that they're wanting. They want the child to have that full experience, and it may be that the child has hearing loss and they're placed in a mainstream school that has a smaller class size. Our family services team can support that and kind of help to find the right school in the right place for you.
You already suggested that some deaf kids or hearing loss kids are put in mainstream schools. Would the teachers understand that one of your 44?
Maybe not, because unfortunately when you do have a class size of 44 kids, 9 out of 10, the one that doesn't seem to pay attention, all right, I'm going to lose one, but I'm going to keep 43.
And that one might be the one.
And that one might be the one that's actually having a serious challenge hearing you. And so even that, so we will help some parents to have that discussion with their child's school and know these are the kind of accommodations that you need to ask for. There is support through the ministry. A student who has a disability of any kind, particularly one that could impact their ability to manage an assessment, can apply to get special accommodations during exams. And that kind of discussion, if it's not known that there's a challenge, will never happen.
You already suggested that the numbers are coming down, but what kind of numbers we're talking about overall?
Currently, we have in total across all the schools for the deaf, approximately 400 students. That's maybe about 50% of the capacity of the schools. But we know when we test kids for hearing loss, when you listen to persons in communities, we should have, and when you just look at percentages, we should have about 1,000 students with hearing loss who are either in our schools or getting special support placement, but we're not seeing those numbers right now. And we do feel that it could very well be a situation where the kids are in a mainstream school, they're not functioning as they should. There is some benefit to the way the ministry structures or education programs now, because, for example, a student who does PEP, or a student who comes in at grade 1, they do an assessment at grade 1. Depending on the grade of that the child gets, the teacher can kind of begin to pick up on challenges. If the child passes at grade 1 and the grade 3 assessment looks questionable, then you can say, what would have caused this child to not progress at this particular time? And when you look back at the assessments and you say, okay, so maybe there is a challenge, and the school might recommend, mommy, check hearing, vision, and cognition. And at that point is when you might get a student who really has been struggling for the last 2 or so years, but notice, okay, so hearing loss is a concern. Whether or not the parent accepts that makes a big difference, though, because it means that a child who has hearing loss at grade 3 can still get the support that they need. If we pretend that it's not there and you just keep bouncing the child from school to school, grade 4 they do, the first stage of PEP, and there's a challenge, you're seeing this domino effect of just a child either subpar or not performing at all.
By the way, the schools for the deaf, it's the same curriculum as all the other schools?
So the JAD schools do the national standards curriculum. The other schools do manage through the ministry's curriculum, but they will have other components that they add for their students based on...
Tell me that again. So the ministry's...
The ministry's national standards curriculum is used.
Which all of the schools use?
All the schools use.
And what you said, the JAD?
The JAD schools, we also have additional components. The different schools, based on the group of schools...
But you do the national curriculum?
We do national standards.
Plus.
And we do some plus.
Okay.
Some plus curriculum activities.
What about sign language and reading lips?
Oh, yeah. Well, we don't really do lip reading because it can get very complicated. I mean, I could do an activity with you. What do you think my lips just said?
Go it again. I love you.
All of you.
All of you.
And it looks the same.
I was just hoping that is I love you.
Oh, well, yeah, we can do that too. We can work on that one too. But so lip reading can be very difficult because I just said all of you, but you caught I love you. And it's the same thing that happens. It's probably about a 30% or 40% chance that what you catch when you lip read is what's actually being said. And then some people speak differently, and so we don't necessarily teach lip reading. That's not something that we focus on, but we do teach sign language. We've actually implemented our sign language grammar curriculum because in the same way that you and I would have learned English in school, we believe the kids should be learning Jamaican Sign Language to ensure that there's that standard that's maintained, which will help them progress through life.
Yeah, we have to go. You know how many people know sign language?
Not enough. Not enough. I
Because
would
I
say
suspect the families who would have someone deaf in the family, they would need to.
they need to. Many
Yeah.
of them don't, but they need to. And so we definitely encourage parents, or even if you know of a child who is deaf, feel free to, contact us and learn sign
Contact
language.
you
So
where?
our office is 9701778 or you can email socialservices@jamdeaf.org.jm.
Okay. Why are you involved in this?
Passion. I got into it through volunteering, and I said, well, everybody deserves to have that opportunity to be a part of Out of Many One People.
Fantastic. Good to see you. Executive Director of the Jamaica Association for the Deaf, Kimberley Sherlock Marriott Blake. All right, folks, News in 5 comes up with Shane, and that comes up after the break. Soon come.